Hello, I'm on my venture again, and today I'm at Robin Hood's Stride, just outside of Birchover and Elton in Derbyshire. I've come to look at the history of this assemblage of rocks, which stand on the summit of a circular hill called Grazed or Graned Tor. These rock formations were commonly known as Mock Beggar's Hall. In 1794, Hayman Rooke, a local writer of antiquities, wrote an account of some Druidical remains in Derbyshire. In a letter to the Right Honourable Frederick Montagu, read at the Society of Antiquaries on March the 13th, 1794, Rooke wrote about altars and green giants, cup and ring art, old forts, and of course, Druids. Here is an excerpt read by John from Hayman Rooke's paper.
In the past, there have been many large rocks that have fallen from the top. There is sufficient evidence of its location being used by a curious group of Druids. In Figure 9, in the northwest view of Graned Tor, the rock is marked A, with 4 rock basins, is 29 feet in circumference, and plainly appears, from its present position, to have fallen from the top. The 3 stones seem to have been placed by art, and the uppermost is likely to have been a rocking stone, but there was no possibility of getting near enough to make the experiment. While I was taking a drawing of this tor, an old man who stood by told me that he remembered when he was a boy, his grandfather's pointing to the stone, B, and saying it had always been called the Great Altar and that several other rocks had names, but he had forgot what they were. We are led by traditional accounts to form probable conjectures, and, as the heathens always placed their altars on their highest ground, there is great reason to suppose that this elevated rock was a Druid altar. At the bottom of the 3rd rock from the top, marked D, is a large rock basin of an oval shape, diameter 4 feet by 2 feet 10 inches, which evidently appears to be cut with a tool. The rock, E, is placed slopingly against the rock, D, and forms a kind of cavity, big enough to hold 3 or 4 people, in which is the rock basin above mentioned. Figure 10 is a near view of this aperture, whence there is a very extensive prospect, of course, well calculated for the purpose of divination. In my account of the Tor, I give drawings of 2 that have apertures cut through them, in which there are rock basins. These sheltered basins are very remarkable and seem to have been contrived, that no water could get into them, but what had been filtrated through their sacred rocks, which the Druids would look on as having been divinely purified. On the other side of the rock, plate 9, is an exact circular hole, as is seen in figure 11. There are many large rocks scattered about, which must have fallen from the top, when they stood erect, filling up every part of this elevated tor. The effect might have been sublimely striking to the superstitious Britons, who had been taught to venerate those sacred rocks, that the Druids had fixed upon this hill for the celebration of their religious rites. I think it cannot be doubted, it was unusual to enclose their places of worship, and here a fence of large rough stones now plainly appears to have surrounded the rocks near the bottom of the hill.
Thanks, John. I do know from looking through old periodicals, records and pamphlets about the history of Harthill area. I do know that the ancient Druid order members met at Birchover. Sometimes we know that old stories get mingled between fact and fiction. What we do know is that a few thousand years ago, Derbyshire, along with many counties, was underwater, and these tors were part of a seabed that was left standing. Through time and weather, these tors became stories of legends, made up to tell the children at bedtime, to fill the romanticisms of history. Now a new generation uses the rocks to explore and climb. These two tors are now known to rock climbers as the Weasel and Inaccessible, but are mostly commonly called Robin Hood's Stride.
Minik saulė kanvedė, pirmanin vasarika. Minik saulė kanvedė, pirmanin vasarika. Ankstoj saulė atskija, mėneksis kleidinasi. Ankstoj saulė atskija, mėneksis kleidinasi.
I've no clue why it came to be known as Mock Beggar's Hall, but I did find an old artist's impression of how he thought the settlement looked decades earlier. From a distance, these outcrops would have looked like two chimney stacks. In the 1930s, John and Percy Heathcote, the landowners, carried out extensive excavations and at around the vicinity of Robin Hood's Stride, recovering thousands of shards of Roman British pottery, querns, occasional metalwork, and some prehistoric pottery and flints. All these finds can be found in Sheffield Museum. Unfortunately, records of the work have not survived, although labels with some of the finds suggest that around 5 rock shelters and 6 huts were cleared at the time. The pottery was mainly Derbyshire ware, but also included grey ware and other wares, along with many Roman coins. No one actually knows what Robin Hood's stride was. Hill fort, a druid, monument to the old gods, or just a freak of nature. I think we just need to enjoy it for what it is. A place to have fun, a picnic, and a place to enjoy the sunshine. So if you're in Derbyshire and have a few hours to spare, why not come along and enjoy Robin Hood's stride?